How bad is this for Macron's image, both domestically and abroad? He's at the G20 in Buenos Aires right now. How bad is this for him?
It is bad, clearly, because he seems to be out of touch and clearly not controlling things. That being said, and probably some would say it might be a cynical view or a cynical strategy, those images that are being beamed around the world of burning cars, the Arc de Triomphe, being tagged and so on, might help Macron, because it might tell the Gilets jaunes movement that, well, they're also out of control, that clearly they're being taken advantage of by gangs who are used to, we've seen this in the past in Labor Day demonstrations, student demonstration, where we've seen some violent gangs pretending they're in the demonstrations, just as they're pretending to be part of the Gilets jaunes. They just wear a yellow vest, and then clearly they want to fight with the police. And the fact that it's getting out of control, yes, you could say the government is supposed to be in control, but some French people, basically those who, yes, support the yellow vest movement, according to the polls, clearly will be not pleased to see what is happening now, because they say, well, we're in favor of lower taxes, but we're not in favor of burning cars. And so that might play in the hands of the government. We've seen already last week, immediately the interior minister saying, we are seeing far-right groups being very active. And again, today, they're both maybe far-right group, far-left groups, but clearly those who just really want to fight with the police. And there will be some, especially those who are more conservative, and someone will say, how come the police is just letting those people take the cobblestone and just throw them at the police? The answer is one name that rings familiar to people who were born quite a while, but it's Malik Oussekine. Malik Oussekine was a student. He was killed by the police during student demonstration in the 1980s. I remember it. I was at school at the time. This was a major, major turning point for the police, because this really produced really bad blood between the students, the police, the image of the police, killing an innocent. He was not a violent student. And so that's the fear. That's been the fear for 30 years. And that's why you have clear instructions not to go after the demonstration in a violent way. But you never know. Things might get out of control, because when you have those kinds of incidents, it's not a full-fledged riot. I mean, obviously, it's spectacular when you have burning cars, but those who do this know it's very spectacular, and all the cameras will roll and film it. It's not, we are not seeing scenes of riots, but this might happen and things might get out of control. That's what the government wants to avoid.
And you were saying sort of that is the cynical perspective of this. Also, what the Yellow Vests are saying, they're saying the police knew that there was going to be protests around the Champs-Élysées this time. They can't say they didn't know. Right. They put in only 1,000 more police officers to handle this situation, and yet they allowed people to go in the streets around this to try and make them look bad. I mean, they see this cynicism. They see it as being cynicism.
Yeah, but I mean, to defend the security force, it's impossible. I mean, the Arc de Triomphe, there are 12 avenues just sprawling from this, and so it's impossible.
And yet the country is almost on lockdown, with the constant threat of terror attacks.
Yes, but there's no state of emergency anymore. Police officials will tell you that if there was still a state of emergency, they would be able to take much more drastic measures. And for example, they could have banned today's movements and so on. They've said, okay, you can go on the Champs-Élysées, but clearly they were searching all the bags and so on, so people didn't go there. Just last week, they had told people, you can go and demonstrate in the Champ de Mars, which is near the Eiffel Tower. No one went there. They went on the Champs-Élysées. So it's a kind of hack-a-mole game, and so it's very difficult for the police, because people come from everywhere. You have people who travel hours and just wanted to say, okay, I'm fed up with higher taxes. I just can't make it happen for me and my family anymore, And
how hard is it for the government to talk to these people? Tell us again about this movement and how widespread it is.
Yeah, but widespread but it doesn't have representative. And we've seen this week. Some representatives were received by the Minister of Environment, and then there was supposed to be a meeting on Friday with the Prime Minister, and most of them canceled. One of them went inside, just stayed a few minutes, saying it was not worth it. Why was this? Not because they didn't want to meet the Prime Minister, but because they were being hammered on social networks, because that's how it functions, by others for being traitors to the cause by only accepting to talk to the government. And so no political party, no union has any control over this. And so basically the only answer, and that might still happen, is for the government to decide to take a very symbolic measure to try really to respond at least, and to take some oxygen away from all those demonstrations. One of the key measures, but it would be clearly a withdrawal for Emmanuel Macron, and he said he wouldn't be like former governments and withdraw in front of street protests, would be to suspend or postpone the hike on gasoline prices that's supposed to happen in exactly a month on January 1st. He could say, okay, maybe we'll do it later. It will be seen as, okay, he's backtracking. But on the other hand, when you see what's happening, when you see the polls, and that's maybe more telling, that 3/4 of the French are in favor of the movement, some might say, well, at least
they got what
he's
they wanted,
listening.
supposedly, yes.
And so that could be maybe the solution. I know a lot of MPs from the République En Marche are pushing for this, because when they go back to their constituency, they're being really hammered by local residents saying, you're not listening to us. And most of them are rookie, quote unquote, lawmakers, and they don't know really what to say and what to respond, because they're not, I would say, professional politicians. So this is putting more and more pressure on Emmanuel Macron to say something, to do something that could maybe stop this movement. Obviously, what we're seeing in Paris has nothing to do with tax hikes, and it clearly got off.
It goes way beyond that, and we're seeing